You'll never believe how quickly I reversed this one person's brain fog and fatigue in just 13 days. Hey, I'm Dr. Rajka, and I'm thrilled to share this case with you today. I'm also a functional medicine MD and board certified in family medicine with over 30 years of experience. So let me tell you how I solved this case. I had the luxury of knowing this woman. So I knew her history, I knew the things that she had worked through in her life. So it made it simpler. And that's what functional medicine is identifying the triggers or imbalances. It's also about pattern recognition. So I ran the list of the 8 imbalances that possibly could have led to these symptoms and identified that it was likely toxin exposures. And then I explained the pathway, which later she forgot. But again, my job is to know how to tackle and approach the problem. And the patient's job is to ask questions and collaborate and then implement the protocols that she was advised on. And of course, give us feedback. So I'm going to share with you one of the nerdiest pathways that I just love. It's called the SOD pathway, and it has to deal with clearing oxidative stress. So what is oxidative stress? So think about if you cut an apple in half and the apple is exposed to air, well, what happens to that apple? It turns brown, and that is the destruction of the apple by exposure to oxygen. Same thing can happen in the human body, and you don't want that to happen. And we're exposed to toxins, we can form more free radicals. So a little bit of free radical is good, and we actually form free radicals when we create energy or ATP. That little bit of free radicals helps us fight infection, but when it becomes overwhelming, that's when it can be a problem, and it can lead to tissue destruction and symptoms. Toxins can also take out our mitochondria, which then lead to fatigue and brain fog. So I knew I was onto something. So the 3 classic symptoms of mitochondrial dysfunction are pain, brain, and drain. And she had 2. She had fatigue and brain fog. And what she said to me was, at the end of a day, I just don't have any get up and go, and that's not like me. I'm also having trouble with my brain. It's just not functioning as fast. It's harder for me to think, and I can't really make great decisions at the end of the day. Thank goodness it was just the end of a day because she was a high-level professional. So let me share the pathway that I love, and that in many, many people, particularly those who are chronically ill, most of those patients will have genetic variations or mutations, and when you support it, their symptoms get better. And of course, you always want to eliminate the underlying triggers, so removing that toxic exposure. So I'll share that with you in just a moment. So this is one of my favorite pathways when it comes to clearing oxidative stress. And this is part of the study of nutrigenetics, which is bypassing defective genes with vitamins and minerals, or actually giving the enzymes that are responsible for those chemical pathways. So most genes, as a matter of reference, are named after the enzyme that they control. Makes it super easy. So I'm just going to explain. So one of the most common but very destructive free radicals is known as superoxide, and that can be seen here in the green. So remember, a little bit is good, helps us fight infection. Too much can lead to tissue destruction. So you want to be constantly neutralizing it. And the first thing that happens in the neutralization is it is neutralized by SOD, or superoxide dismutase, to become hydrogen peroxide. But you don't want to stop at this point in the pathway. And here's why. Kind of like a roadblock. If you think about it, if you had a roadblock right here in this chemical pathway, what would happen? You get a backlog of the free radical, kind of like a roadblock on the highway. If there's a car accident, the cars get backed up for miles and miles sometimes, it seems, right? So you want to take the hydrogen peroxide and neutralize that out of the body. And that's done by 2 different enzymes. Catalase will neutralize it to oxygen and water. Or glutathione, my favorite pathway of all these pathways, will break it down to just water alone. And so then if you're constantly clearing it, you don't get the excess. Now, what happens if it gets stuck and you get a buildup? Well, how we get that tissue destruction is superoxide can combine with something called nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is actually not a bad player. It causes dilation of our arteries and delivers more oxygen to our tissues. You can increase it by breathing properly or breath work. That's why we teach all of our patients breath work in the first appointment when we meet with them. It's also increased with certain supplements that contain components of beets, as well as by the drug Cialis or Viagra. So it delivers more oxygen to certain parts of the body. So if you get a backlog or buildup of superoxide, it can combine with nitric oxide and form something called peroxynitrite. So it goes from no to oh no, because it can lead to tissue destruction. You can see the orange boxes down here off to the left. It can form lipid peroxidation, so it damages our lipids, or cause protein nitration, so damage to our proteins. So we don't want damage to any of our tissue. So all those free radicals can not only damage our tissue, but also damage our mitochondria, and it leads to those symptoms: pain, brain, and drain. And this particular woman had 2 of the 3. So you need superoxide present, you need catalase and glutathione in order to get continual clearance down this pathway. And there is one thing I was able to observe in 100% of my really chronically ill, very unwell patients. I'm not talking they're not well for a year or 2, but the ones that are typically very unwell for a decade or more, is that they have issues in this pathway. And there's a common genetic variation I would love to share with you in a subsequent video. Comment below if you want to hear about it, that I've noticed, and now I know how to support. So I'm constantly looking at this. So I look at nutrigenetics in 2 types of patients who want it. One is the chronically ill, to support them better while we're optimizing their health. And 2 is that high performers. I take care of a lot of executives, entrepreneurs, even some celebrities, and they want to remain high performing as well. And so we want to mitigate the stress, but I always say it's never just about the genetics, because you don't know if the gene is actually expressing. The healthier life you lead, the more able you are to turn off defective genes. So that's something called epigenetics. But in this ever increasing toxic world, my worry and theory is that we may override this epigenetic ability. So hopefully that won't be the case, and we're wising up and we'll be eliminating toxins going forward. We've already made some great strides. But then how did I tackle this case? How did I support this patient? Well, I'm glad you asked. So the first thing I did was, you can remove free radicals by adding something called molecular hydrogen. And I'll provide a link in the notes with my favorite form called H2Absorb, and a link to buy. So again, a little bit is good, too much is bad, and you don't want to have none. But if you're having symptoms of fatigue and brain fog, give it a try for a month. Again, this is not medical advice. I'm supposed to say, discuss this with your practitioner. So I gave her molecular hydrogen. I also gave her SOD and Catalase, as well as glutathione. So I just take care of the whole pathway. So you don't want to just give SOD. And in fact, and it's almost always combined with Catalase, and you don't want to just give glutathione. So you want to make sure it's being cleared down that whole pathway. And you'll never believe what happened. 13 days later, she sent me a message and she said, my brain fog and fatigue are completely gone after 13 days. Isn't it amazing? It's just the beauty of looking at patterns. And in her, I identified, hey, this is likely toxic exposure. You got 2 of the 3 symptoms of mitochondrial dysfunction. I knew her nutrients were optimized, and it led to the likely culprit of toxins based on what I knew of her. And then the remaining item in all of this is to identify which toxins they are. So then we can remove them, avoid them, and ensure that this doesn't keep going. If you like this video, like and subscribe, and share this video with someone you think could benefit.